What are you pointing at? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cubist. My name is Bill Corey. I am the Cubist, and I'm back on the main show. I missed last week, but I was here for After Dark. So if you missed that, that's your own damn fault. You should click the notification button here on YouTube so that way you never miss a show. We keep telling you people that it is episode 75, which feels like a milestone, even though it's not like a round number. I don't know. Does that count? Randy Hoyt of Foxtrot Games, does that count as a milestone?
I think it's the quarter quell now. Is that the...
Sure. Something like 3/4?
Yes.
A haircut, 3 bits? I don't know how that works. Very good.
It is very significant.
Indeed. Well, it feels like it doesn't suck, so we'll go with that. Randy, thanks for coming back on the show. You were here a long time ago.
I was very early on.
Yes. I think it was World's Fair, right? Was that?
Oh,
I feel like that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, probably so.
That sounds about right. So, speaking of fair, Kimberly Rebia is here. I don't know. That was a terrible segue. Whatever.
I'm very pale.
You are very pale. You see, you are fair skinned. That's what I mean. Hello, Kimberly. How are you?
You know. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's why I asked.
Oh, yes. I'm going to go with upright. How are you?
Upright is a solid choice. I'm good. Yes. I'm good. I am freshly pinked. I feel pretty all over again today, which is excellent. And what? Don't giggle at nothing. All right, fine. And don't choke on your water. All right, ladies and gentlemen. First off, hello, chat room. How's it going? Good to see everybody that's here with the live chat. I'm excited for tonight's topic. This is going to be a fun one because I have a feeling we're gonna ruffle a couple feathers in the most well-intentioned way possible before the end of this show. We are going to be talking.
I wouldn't call it well-intentioned, but yes.
Oh no, this is absolutely going to be well-intentioned. Randy and I had a little bit of pre-show confab where we were talking about what we're going to talk about, if that makes any sense. And I have a feeling that this is going to be a fun one. We're going to be talking about family games and what that term actually means, what we use it as now, and what maybe we think we should be using it as moving forward, because I think that there's a divide there. And we are also going to talk about Spy Club in the shameless plug section of the show that I have always been really upfront about. We're going to do some shameless plugging so that way Randy can talk about Foxtrot's upcoming release Spy Club, which I think looks really cool. But first, before we do all that nonsense, let's talk about games we've played recently, because apparently Patrick skipped that entire segment last week.
Because we love you. We're just going to go with that.
Because you were going to say that nobody likes this segment. I don't care. I don't care, because I like reviewing games, and we are going to do it whenever I'm here. So that's fine. Y'all don't have to like it.
You do you, boo.
We are all going to do this. Randy, I'm going to make you start too. So there you go. Randy, what have you played lately?
The thing I played most recently is Exit Polar Station. I've really enjoyed all the escape room games. The exits are my favorite. If you're not familiar with how these work, so they simulate an escape room. You don't actually get locked in a room, but there's a story in the box that says you are locked in a room. Here's what it looks like. And you have puzzles to solve. With the exits, they give you a deck of cards and a rule book I guess there's a rule book and then a thematic manual of some kind. So in this one, you are locked in a polar station. There's like some... Well, I won't spoil too much, but there's some emergency, and you're locked in, and you've got to get out before you perish. What is it called? You're in a research station. IMBQ13 is your station number. You get this little scenario, and as you go, you get a decoder ring. All of them come with these decoder rings where you enter your code. So they'll just show you a bunch of things like a briefcase and a door, and all the stuff is locked, and you got to start digging through the clues, digging through the books, trying to figure out the codes. Somebody's usually left you the answers to the code that only you can figure out with great human logic or something for some thematic reason. And so then you'll figure out like, oh, the briefcase has a moon on it, and we think the code for that is, 1, 2, 3. So you enter 1, 2, 3, and it'll guide you to unlock some new cards, and they'll tell you, oh, look, you found this other thing, you found this clue, all these different things. So you end up solving, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It looks like 12 codes usually in these that things you gotta unlock that all give you keys and other puzzles to then eventually get out. This one was I thought it was pretty hard. It took us 2 hours. There was one solution we never got. We had to use all 3 hints on it. What I love about the exit games is the hint system is really good. So there's, for each of the 12 puzzles, you get 2 hints and a solution is the 3rd hint if you can't get it. And with all of these, there are just sometimes the puzzles are just, they're not jiving with you. That's just like, you just can't see the answer. And the hint system and the exits have been the best of all of them. So, and usually with the exits, I think every exit puzzle, when I see the answer, I think, oh, I should have thought of that.
Okay.
Even when they're too hard, like the one that we couldn't get in the polar station, there's no way we would have ever got it. We could have sat there, I don't know, all night. But as soon as we saw the answer, we were like, oh, we should have thought of that.
Gotcha.
Too many of the other ones. There's some that some of the systems don't have any hints. You just flip the card over and they're like, the answer is 5. You're like, oh, I thought it was 6. I got it wrong. And that's not any fun. There's some that I've had way too many experiences with others where you're like, I don't even get how they thought that was the answer. Like, it just doesn't, even when you see the answer, you're like, that's lame.
Sure. Now, when you say with others, are you talking about other escape room in a boxes, or are you talking about just escape rooms in general? I'm
talking about other escape rooms in a box. Yeah.
Okay.
So my favorite is the exits. I've played a bunch of the other ones. With the other systems, they're more hit and miss. Some of them I really like. Some of them, but every exit I've played, I think I've played 5 of them now. That's just been great. This one was really hard. They started ranking them too on difficulty. This one is 3 out of 5, and it took us 2 hours. I hope they never make a 5 out of 5. I don't know what that would be like.
Well, I like the fact that I like that the ranking system. I think that that's kind of a big deal, because I think when it comes to games like this, and I don't want to go down the whether this counts as a game conversation or not. We're going to call it a game because it's in a box and you take it home and you buy it and you have fun with it. So it's a game.
A game like boxed product.
Sure, that's great. But whatever it is, I think that it's a matter of, are you going into it to quote unquote win, or are you going into it for the experience? And I think that difficulty level is going to help make sure that the right people are picking up the right box, because some people really want to be super challenged by these things. Those are your 5s, right? And some people like me just want to be like, well, that was a fun way to pass an hour or 2, and I suck at puzzles, so this is not going to be a good thing, but I can have a good time with it.
Yeah, and I like both experiences. I think a lot of it's figuring out too, like which group you're going to play with, So are you going to play with 5, 6 people at your annual family get together, or are you going to play with? Yeah, but if you're playing with, like, in the right setting, people are coming and going, and they're just there when they're there. So we had a really good time with these last year with my family as an annual get together. And I think we started with 8 people playing, which is too many for these, right? But somebody left, and then somebody went to go do this other thing, and we ended up finishing with 4 of us, and had a really good time. You can come in and out of these, especially these have 12 puzzles. I think they all have the same decoder type ring. So the only negative thing is that you destroy it when you play it. So, I mean, that comes up a lot with these. So to really do the exits, you do destroy them. Now, on the one hand, it's okay, because once you play it, you can't, like, you know all the answers. So you wouldn't, you personally wouldn't want to do it again. This has started to weigh on me more, though, because my kids my kids are 11 and 6, and we left one of the unlocks out after we had done it, and they wanted to do it. And it's like, well, I've got it here, so I can sit here, and even with my 6-year-old, it's like I can kind of GM him through it. Like, I can walk him through, let him know when he needs hints. If it's too obtuse for him, I can help him. And so we've now played I think the Squeakin' Sausage unlock. It was in the very first. It was in the very first set. Our copy of that's been played by 4 different groups now, and that's a really nice thing to be able to do. So that would be my only negative of the exits. I mean, some of what you can do because you are destroying the thing, like the puzzle we couldn't solve. I mean, we had to cut the thing out. We had to do stuff with it, but yeah, it's a trade-off. The
lack of replayability, I think, in and of itself doesn't bother me personally a whole lot, because you also can't replay a real life escape room that you would pay way more money for either, right?
Like, yeah.
I mean, and so you're getting basically any size group you want to do something that replicates to an extent, and it is not a perfect replication. For example, Andrew in the chat is talking about how it doesn't replicate it enough for his taste, which is fine. I completely get that. That's awesome. You know, and that's a perfectly valid opinion. But my point is, you're also not going to get somebody to show up at your house and replicate it for $20, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's effective. That's sort of what you're doing here. So like it's a trade-off for sure.
Yeah, and I would say so. One of the unlocks that I really like is the house on the hill. This is a really good one. I would recommend
that one yet.
I would recommend this one. I don't know if they have ratings on these as far as rankings. I thought
in the app.
In the app, it is. Yeah, this was on the easier side, I thought. But I ran this with a group at my day job. So we had we flew in all of our remote employees and had like a team building day. And so I divided everybody up. I got like 4 copies of this one, divided everybody into groups of 4 and watched everybody run through this.
Can I just say that this just reinforces how bad I suck at puzzles, because the 2 that you've talked about, Squeak and Sausage and House on the Hill, are the 2 that I played solo most recently. And Squeak and Sausage, I got.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I think I got like 5 stars on it. Like I nailed that one. And the other one, I definitely tanked.
Oh,
and it was terrible. Yeah. So I don't know. This just reinforces that not everybody can be good at everything. I wish I was good at more things. This is definitely not one of them for me. So, all right. So let's talk about the polar cabin. I'm sorry. Is that the name of it?
No, the polar station.
Polar station. There we go. Sorry about that. So exit the game, the polar station on the Cubist scale. Is it a buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it?
Well, so the Cubist scale and the escape room games don't quite work together. Because
no, they really don't.
You can't play it first to try.
Well, you could play it with somebody else. Like a play it would be like, it was fun, but I wouldn't have spent money on it.
Well, this is definitely a buy it, I would say.
Okay.
At $15, I think they are. Definitely buy it. This one's a little harder. It's a 3 out of 5. So if you've never done an exit, I would recommend the abandoned cabin. That's my favorite of the exits.
That's a good one.
But yeah, if you want to lose and spend a couple of hours, then the polar station is a great one. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, but it was challenging.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Kimberly.
Yes.
Everybody hates this section of the show, but I don't care. I'm making you do it anyway.
I hate this section of the show.
Yeah, I know you do. That's fine. That's just because you can never, and you're not going to read the BGG entry for what game?
I would, but it is incredibly ridiculously long, my friends. Or I just totally, absolutely would. This is insane. Whoever decided that this was a necessary description of the game.
Business was blooming when the codfish would come for spawning.
Exactly.
That's all you need to know.
Whatever Mayfair representative put this on here, no.
Well, they don't exist anymore. She's talking about Nussfjord. She's not actually going to say the title of the game.
I was going to just skim over that scam.
All right. This is Uwe.
It is. It's an Uwe Rosenberg game. I've only played it once and at 2-player. Generally, I wouldn't review anything that I've only played once, but somebody's making me review a thing.
Yeah, your life is hard. Life is hard and filled with disappointment.
I haven't really played anything lately, so this is what you get, friends.
It's all good.
It's a little bit... if you've played Glass Road, the board where you move sections out and have to cover them back up. Does that make any sense?
Sure.
It's a common Uwe thing. It's got a little bit of that, and it plays ridiculously fast. So I believe with the teach and play with at 2-player, it took us like 35 minutes, 40 minutes maybe.
You play pretty fast. So
we do. We play everything quickly. I understand that. I feel like now that we both know how to play it, at 2 players, it would be like 20, 25 minutes. So
okay.
It's a solid Uwe game. It was a little bit lighter than I thought it would be. It felt a little bit more like Le Havre, I guess, in terms of you have pretty limited actions you can do. Mm-hmm. And it's very quick. There's 6 rounds, and that's it. You have 3 pieces that you place out each round. You just drop them on and trigger like build a building, get gold, tear down one section of your forest to get 5 logs. And then you're trying to complete these little things for points at the end. And after all of that, we tied.
Ha ha! Nice!
Which is relatively fine by me. It is not relatively fine with the other human that I play with.
There was a whole big dust up on the internet, I think yesterday, about tiebreakers and whatever. Mm-hmm. Was that the other human? That wasn't the other human, was it? Because that would have been really funny.
He was excited to see that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Other people think it's a cop out. Yep.
Sure. All right. So I want to ask you 2 questions about this, because these are the questions that I feel like I have to ask every time Ube comes out with a farmy type game. All right. Thing number 1, does this feel like the next step in Ube's design arc, right? Like, I feel like every game I've played of his feels like the previous games, and now he's tweaked a thing.
Yes, generally it still feels very Uwe-ish. It feels like a draw back to the more classic Uwe, though, instead of the patchwork, cottage garden, Indian summer.
Feast for Odin.
That's what it's called. Feast for Odin felt a little bit more like the old school ones to me, but yeah. Okay.
And then the second thing is, if you are an Ube fanboy, especially, I kind of want, like, I know that you only played it once, and I won't.
I've only played it once, I know, and I'm only at a very specific player count.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not going to try and bully you into like a rating here, but does it feel like an essential for Ube fans?
For the price, no.
Okay.
I think it played. I mean, it was a little bit reminiscent of Feast for Odin for me, and a quicker, lighter package, but generally that appeals to lots of people. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
That is a little bit less of what I personally would desire.
Yep.
It was a little bit less than I wanted it to be.
Okay.
But I've only played it that one time at 2-player. It might be entirely different at a full player count.
Gotcha. Okay.
It also reminded me of Glass Road, but a little bit lighter. And, it just seemed slightly lighter than the other Uwe games that I really enjoy.
And Matt with the wrong chat name is concurring with you and is calling it Beast Road and a Glass Road package. And that sounds
there we go. Yep.
So there you go.
I don't have that.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Paul says buy it.
Paul says buy it. Hi, Paul. I love you.
Yes.
I think it's definitely on the verge, but for me, it's probably a play it. It's a ridiculous amount of wood and setup for a game that is going to take us like 25 minutes to play as well.
Yeah.
I mean, not wood, of cardboard. That box is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It seems like there should be more game in that box than there is. There's a lot of components, like just so many thick cardboard pieces.
And then for it to be a fairly short,
holy
crap, it's already over kind of game.
And I think it's a $65 MSRP. Oh, Matt said 70. Right. Yeah. See,
it's pretty expensive.
The components match the price. I don't think the gameplay did.
Gotcha.
That's more my thing.
Nope. And I think that's actually, I mean, that syndrome right there is what caused the Cubist rating scale to come into being, right? Yeah. Like, are you getting the amount of game that you feel like you're paying for? And because I look at games the same way, so you don't feel like you are, and that makes
no, not in this particular. I think it's a very good game. I just think that it's
too much.
Not quite.
I felt the same way about Barren Park, also from Mayfair, which is a game that I traded for. I really like Barren Park, but there's no way in hell I'd have spent $40 on it. Right? Like, it's a great game, but I'm not spending $40 on it. So I got you. All right, you know what game I would spend $30 on, because I did, was Space Base. I've talked about this game.
Oh, you've talked about this game so much.
A fair amount lately, but I want to talk about it again because it has gotten a lot of play in the last week, which will probably tip your hand on where I'm headed with this. This is from AEG, designed by John D. Clare. It's Machikoro 2.0, y'all. Like, it's the Machikoro mechanism or the Catan mechanism, if you want to even go farther back than that, where one player is rolling the dice and then everybody's getting stuff. And whereas in Catan, it was getting resources that you'd use to build on a board, Machikoro simplified that and turned it into getting money that you can use to buy more cards. Kimberly. And Space Base is basically the same thing as that. The only difference is, or the main difference is, are in Space Base, you start with an entire tableau of cards, so no die roll ends up useless on your turn. Whereas Machikoro can have a lot of turns where you can roll the dice and nothing happens. You get your welfare $1 and then you do nothing. Rinse and repeat for a long time until the dice start to cooperate or you're able to afford more cards. Space Base fixes that because the dice are always, at least when you roll the dice, you will get something. And it is combos for days. So we've talked about this with Gans and Kleber recently on how much we like the fact that it takes an existent sort of game and adds a million combos to give you more ways to want to do things. Space Base does that in this system, and it does it really well. It does it in a very easy to understand way. Basically, the cards, only one card can occupy each of your number slots. In your active slots. And when you replace a card, you flip it over, and then it becomes a passive card that can only be triggered on other players' turns. So if it's face up, if it's right way around, it's going to be triggered on your turn. If it's upside down, it'll be triggered on other players' turns. Rinse and repeat until somebody gets to 40 victory points. That's the game. It's super simple. If you played Machikoro and like it, but wish there was more in the box, Space Base is what you want. It's prettier. That's debatable. You might like the Japanese theme of Machikoro. That's fine. I guess that's going to be a stylistic choice. But I think it's overall just straight up a better game. Like, I think it's better designed. It doesn't outstay its welcome like Machikoro can. Machikoro, if the dice don't cooperate, can drag forever and ever. And if people buy all the dickhead cards that let you steal money from each other, the game can take an ice age. It doesn't have those problems by any stretch. So I really like it. I'm going to say, for me, I think Space Base is a total buy it because I think it might be the perfect family game. Segue, come on. That was pretty good. I really dig this as a great family game because it incorporates some stuff that keeps everybody engaged. So let's use my very well-timed and carefully plotted out segue to go into our main topic, which is family games. Now we designed this topic, and just in the interest of full disclosure, because I like being super transparent and just showing how the sausage is made. We created this topic specifically because we knew we were going to have Randy on the show. And I think that Spy Club, which Randy is keen to talk about, and I'm keen to have him talk about, is a great fit for this topic because it is a family-friendly theme where I feel like people stay involved. But what does a family game mean? So let's start with this. Randy, if I ask you if this is if a game is a family game, what do you think I mean?
Oh, what do I think you mean?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people have a lot of different meanings, so you have to know the person asking.
Sure. Okay, so what would you mean if you called the game a family game?
Well, I think it's such a tricky term. I probably don't use it, but maybe what would I assume you meant? I think it would mean, for a lot of people, it means a game you can safely play with your family, or that normal people can play with their normal families, whatever that means. So I think people, you probably imagine 2 grown-ups and 2 children somewhere between the age of like 8 and 12, 13, 14. I don't know, 2.5 kids and a dog. Is that the average family? Right. Yeah, all that.
Gotcha.
I think that's what people normally think of. Now, of course, families are all very different than that. We're all in families of some kind, of all different ages. So I think it becomes a really tricky term to try to nail down what people mean. And a lot of people mean it's just not a good game because it's like, oh, well, kids would like this, without like having kids or playing games with kids and knowing that kids don't just like every game. I think that's a big pet peeve of mine. It's like, oh, well, I didn't like it, but kids would like it. Like, kids have no taste in like everything.
Somehow kids are less person-like than you are, right? Because
exactly.
And I don't think that let's not ascribe malice here, right? Like, because I for the record, I agree with you, and my hackles get raised a little bit when I hear that as well, because I think that it needlessly demeans the opinions of kids, which is pointless. Because I mean, especially now, I feel like kids are smarter and more well informed now than they ever have been in their lives, or in history. I mean, not in their lives, because of course they are now. Sorry. Anyway, what I mean though is that I think what they are trying to say is they believe that kids have not been exposed to enough stuff to have refined tastes. You know, they will and I feel like I have heard people say in the past that it's something like having a refined palate because I have been, you know, drinking wine for years or something like that, and a bunch of hoity-toity stuff like that. Yeah. And I get where they're headed with that, because maybe the kids have not been able to refine their taste in games as much, but it feels like it's doing a disservice. Kimberly, as the mother of two younger kids, one now a teenager that's taller than you, and one...
She is not taller than me.
Are you sure?
Yes.
She looks like she's taller than you.
She's absolutely not taller than me, Bill.
Yeah, all right, fine.
Don't make me say words you don't want me to say.
I feel like you might be lying, but that's fine.
No, she's barely... Shut it. I'm not talking about
What do you feel like makes a game a family game?
I think like a traditionally considered family game is probably easy to teach more so than anything else. Clear, concise rule set that can be easily grokkable to a range of people, whether it be age, IQ, experience, attention span. It needs to be something that you can present quickly, usually. Yeah, my kids are 9 and 13, but my 13-year-old overall likes games more than the 9-year-old. But she also taps out sooner. Like, the little one has to really want to play. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You have to like really read her. And
her default mode isn't let's play a game.
Right. And if she really wants to play, though, she will play Castles of Burgundy. She likes that one a lot. She's played Bora Bora, I think, 3 times now, which is a game that I could never teach my 13-year-old.
Gotcha. Well, and I think that's, I mean, I feel like both of you have said something which I think resonates here, which is that all kids are not created equal, right? And it's really dependent on the kid, right? Like,
yes,
which makes everything about this particular nomenclature for games a little bit weird, right? Like, because it's one of those things where it feels like it's being used to say this is what is suitable for younger kids is not a valid enough grouping. Yeah, because it just doesn't feel like it. Now I'm going to confess more sins because apparently the chat room already thinks I'm ridiculous for pointing out. First off, how the sausage is made is a perfectly valid turn of phrase.
I'm just concerned with where that leads.
You need to live in Wisconsin. If you live in Wisconsin, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, I do not need to live in Wisconsin.
Read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, and then you will know how the sausage is made. That's all I'm going to say. And that's not about Wisconsin. Anyway, my point is, I have been guilty of thinking of games that are maybe too light for me as family games. And that is super arrogant, right? Like, that's a terrible mindset to be in. No, it is. And
but I mean, you like things like Don Sean Clever, right?
I do. Yes. And I like
consider that a family easily teachable game.
Yeah, I think easily teachable is probably one of the most important things, and maybe even more so easy to remember when you pick it up again.
Yes.
You know, you think about a lot of us who work in the industry or spend a lot of time playing new games. Like, a part of playing a game is spending time learning the new game and playing it once or twice. But I think in a broader situation, most people are more likely to play the same game multiple times. It's easier to grab a game you already know how to play. And if the game is hard to remember, if it's hard to open it up after you've already played it a few times and even try to recall how to play it again, I think that's not going to be the kind of game most of us think of as family game.
Right.
Well, and then
this is where reading your person helps a lot too, because you know what they will and they won't absorb. Like, my little one does really well with iconography and player's aids, so I know the game is relatively heavy, but she'll pick up on the iconography and the graphic design relatively quickly. Yeah, easy peasy. But that is not a thing that my older child will pick up on, and she'll get all like,
yeah. You mentioned
not play half of it.
You mentioned the graphic design. I mean, one of the stories when my oldest was younger, I think he was 7 or 8 maybe, and we like Seven Wonders at our house, and so we taught him Seven Wonders, and that is a game that was a little hard for him to learn, but the graphic design is such that once you know how to play it, if you can get over that hurdle, then you can
science scoring.
Well, yeah, you just
sorry, I'm just going to throw that in there because
I have to use
the science scoring may be the place where it sort of deviated too far. So you need someone to just tell you generally build all the way across and as far down as you can. Like if you make like a an upside down L, just try for that. And then someone else will tell you how many points you got.
So Paul in the chat made a good point too, that a little less head to head mean take somebody down can be with that,
Yeah.
If you can enter at a more equal playing field, that typically is obviously good.
I want to refine that point a little bit and say at least a game where you are not required to head-to-head confront other players. Like a game where it is allowed but not required. Because I think there are some games where if you don't take swings at the other players, you are going out of your way to play poorly.
Yes.
And there are games, or alternatively, if it is a game where it is all taking swings at other players, such that it is so common that it's hard to take it personally. That's the other half of it, right? Which is why, like the chat room is talking about Munchkin a little bit and saying that they've seen kids play Munchkin. The difference is everybody is screwing everybody. First off, you're all being screwed over just by sitting down and playing the game for longer than 5 minutes. So there's that. Whatever. If I didn't take one cheap shot at the game, people would think I was sick. But secondly, there's so much. Everybody is hitting everybody all the time, and the game is couches it all in such humor that it's hard to take anything personally in Munchkin until hour 3, and then everybody's taking it personally because it's hour 3 and everybody is level 9.
Yeah, but a good example of that is King of Tokyo, where you are all beating up each other, but you don't ever decide. You don't. That's fair. But you don't ever make a decision about who to attack. The game tells you this is the person you can attack right now.
Oh, see, and my children still always gang up on me.
How is that possible?
Because if you're in Tokyo, they will go for things that would not in other ways behoove them. So they will forsake points in order to scratch the hell out of me.
Sure. But then you can just leave right away.
Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah, that's actually why I dislike that game, and I was just actually going to point out why games like that fall into the bad family game category. I think because I think player elimination is really difficult for children.
Oh, God,
that's fair.
So any game where you can actually be eliminated relatively early on, King of Tokyo is one of them, can be pretty upsetting for especially a smaller kid.
Especially if it's long. Like, I mean, and we're going to talk about attention spans and the length of games in a minute here, because I think that's a component of this as well. But like, I remember distinctly when Bang first hit the United States and Mayfair was printing it. I was working in the booth at the time, and it was being demoed as a game as a family style game that the kids could play because the iconography was pretty simple and it's funny being, and I'm the outlaw and I'm going to shoot the sheriff. And, I did not shoot the deputy, and you can make all the same cheesy jokes or whatever.
Of course.
But it's also a 90-minute game sometimes if the cards don't go right. And if the kid gets greased in the first 12 minutes and now they're sitting around for the next hour and a half feeling like they just got abused horribly, like that's a really off-putting thing. So I mean, player elimination in one, like if you're playing, I don't know, Bang the Dice game, which is why I own Bang the Dice game and not Bang the Card game, because Bang the Dice game is going to be over in 11 minutes no matter what happens, right? Like, there's just no way that game lasts because it can't. That works, whereas the other one doesn't. So I would say that's like player elimination is dependent on the framework under which it is contained, right? Like it can work, it just doesn't always.
Yeah, and you mentioned families aren't always about young people either.
No,
at a family reunion, you're talking about. I think the thing that stands out to me most about families is that you will probably have people of widely different ages if you get together, whether that's older people, younger people. Most people in a family are not the same age. They just can't be.
I would certainly hope not. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be weird.
John Schulter's in the chat room, and John, by the way,
Sure.
I'm super bad at saying names, so I'm just gonna like apologize. Our official mispronouncer of names couldn't make it tonight, so it's fallen to me.
He would call you Fred.
There you go. Yeah, it says family's been a pejorative in other media as well, but companies like Pixar have been able to both rise above and elevate the genre, and I think that's a worthy goal achieved by some in board games. I agree.
Valid.
That's a really good point. I think that somewhere along the way, culture, and I'm just going to talk about culture in the world at large, right? So step away from the table for a second here. Culture has sort of embraced the idea of edginess. We've embraced this idea of, you know, things are too basic, or, you know, in video gamers, you know, like make jokes about casuals, you know, or, you know, too mainstream. Like music has been using the same argument in a way for a long time, right? Like things are too mainstream or whatever. And I feel like family ends up in that same sort of niche, right? Like, well, it's a family film. Okay, so it's boring, you know, or it's a, you know, this is a family, whatever. It just feels like, you're right. It's got this weird kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for here. This intonation to it that I don't think should be something we embrace. And yet it's the way marketing has been, because everybody wants to be on the edge in the front. Oh, and I pronounced your name right? Yes. Oh. That never happens. Holy cow. Go me. I like it. So, but no, I totally agree. And I would be curious to know, like, so let's get to the shameless portion of our evening for a second here. Randy, Spy Club. And this is one of your big title that's coming out. And I designed this topic because I feel like Spy Club is going to be a great, like, it's going to fit into this category. So briefly walk us through it, and then let's see if stigma was the word I was looking for. Thank you, Ben. Yes. Appreciate it. All right, go ahead. Go for it.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on for this shameless plug.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In Spy Club, it's a cooperative game. You're playing neighborhood detectives trying to solve neighborhood mysteries. There's 5 different aspects of it's that collection is the main way you solve a mystery. There are 5 aspects of the mystery, like the crime, the motive, the suspect, the object involved, and the location. And so you're trying to collect sets of cards that match these. Cool things in the game, it has double-sided cards. They have faces. Both sides are faces. So part of what you're doing is flipping them over to investigate, to try to find what's on the back, and have a little bit of a memory element too, trying to remember which cards. There are things in the game that to flip your cards over. And so you're trading cards and flipping cards, trying to get the right sets of cards to solve parts of the mystery. And the bad guy, the suspect or the culprit, moves around your cards in your hand. So you've got your cards face up on the table, and he moves through your hand. So not only are you just trying to get the cards that you need and manage them, flip them and trade them and all that, but also he's marching through the cards, triggering events, which will cause you to, lose the currency in the game, the ideas, or flip all your cards or discard cards out of the game, or generally interfere with what you're trying to do. So it's very puzzly type hand management game. And then on top of that, it's got a new kind of campaign system that it's kind of like Legacy. People have talked about it in that sense, but you don't destroy anything. The campaigns are short. You play a 5-game campaign. But when you play a 5-game campaign, you're not seeing all the content. So with a lot of the campaign system games out there, you play 12 or 24 games and you've seen everything or most everything in the game. With this one, we've got 40 different modules, and you'll unlock 4 or 5 of them in a campaign. So you sit down with one group, play a campaign, and then put the game away and play with another group, play a different campaign, and depending on what you solve, you'll unlock completely different content, different modules and things that come out. And they're all replayable, so there's not any, like once you've played one, you can play that same module over and over again. So you can play 10 campaigns before you've seen everything if you were to sit down and play with the same group. But then you can keep replaying, and everybody's campaigns will be different. There's no scripted or linear order that the campaign cards come out. So everybody will have very different experiences as they play through the content.
First off, you're one of the designers of the game. Right?
Yes.
Jason Kingsley.
That's correct.
Are the design team.
Yes.
It feels like you designed this. It feels like you were trying to design a family game. Like
Yes.
it very much feels like this is what you were aiming for.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. That's
Okay.
probably fair.
Okay.
I don't know if we would use the word family game, but the context, the context of what we're going for are, we want games at Foxtrot Games that people will play with their kids, that their kids can
Right.
play, but not that you would only play with kids. So, we talk a lot about it. Like you'd play it with your kids, you put it to bed, and it's like, well, it's already out. We'll just play it again, or we'll have
Sure.
our grown-up friends over to play it again. We like to think of the kids playing up, instead of the grown-ups playing kids games. It's the kids playing grown-ups games and feeling like they're playing something bigger than just a kids game, but they're participating in the grown-ups culture.
And I had a feeling that you were going to say that right there. And we did not prep this, okay? But I had a feeling you were going to say that right there, which is why, and this is where I'm going to pat myself a little bit on the back and say, that's why I like this topic, because I feel like that's a really important thing. You don't have to play down to kids. This is what I was talking about a few minutes ago, and I feel like it's this mentality where somehow we are up here and the kids are down here, and we have to lower ourselves to play games with them. And it doesn't feel like that's a fair thing. Like, yes, when the kid is 3, sure, you know what I mean, or whatever, but kids are just little people. So I love that mission statement. And I feel like we had a similar conversation when World's Fair.
Yeah, maybe so.
I feel well, no, because I think I remember you saying specifically that you wanted this to be an accessible game that you could play. And that was part of why you were excited for it.
Yeah, and the campaign system, part of our goal with it was to take what I have loved about legacy games and these bigger campaign games, but try to make it something that will be able to be played by more people. And one of the things I found with our games, especially family games or casual games or gateway plus games, all those kinds of terms, which we can talk a little bit about. The way that a lot of the people I teach, I have people over for game night. A lot of them are learning 3 or 4 new games they've never played. And before the night is over, somebody has bought one of the games on Amazon. Every time I do this, every time I have people who don't play a lot of games, somebody's buying it before they even leave. And with a legacy game or these big epic campaign games, I'm going to play those with my, my wife, my core gaming friends, and I'm not going to play them with the, like Time Stories, Pandemic Legacy. I'm not going to have someone over and teach it to them.
You don't have your Gloomhaven box on your shoulder when you're like, come here.
And so it makes it harder for me to share this game. Time Stories, my wife and I have had a wonderful time with Time Stories, and I've told so many people how great it is and that they should get it. But I don't sit down and play it with them because I play all of the modules with my core group. And so we wanted the big goal with this campaign system was that, I could play a 5-game campaign with my core gaming group, and everyone would be like, yeah, that was great. But then we could have somebody over, we could play another 5-game campaign with another family. They'd be like, wow, this is great. And then they could buy it and they could play a campaign with their family, and they could teach another family, and it could spread like that. That's just something that these other campaign games don't have. And so I thought it would be a really good fit for this style, this weight of a game, to have a campaign system that could spread like that.
And as somebody that has bought, hang on, you ready? Here we go. As somebody that has bought Gloomhaven with a custom insert, 2 copies of Risk Legacy, and Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which I actually did get to finish, which is very exciting.
Nice.
The idea of spending a bunch of money on a campaign game where you can never finish that campaign is infuriating, because you feel like you want the same group, right? Like we're what, 6 games into a Charterstone campaign that has 100% stalled out because we can't get the group together. The idea of something that has this campaign feel, but in a manageable size, and where you could play multiple campaigns with different groups without feeling like you are cheating on your other group. You know what I mean? Or, well, I guess you can play Bob's character because Bob can't make it this week. So here's how to play Gloomhaven because we really want to play, or something like that. It's a wonderful and I think important way to take the idea of campaigns, which is why I really dig this. I am really excited for this because I love the idea of campaign games. I did a whole show about it a couple weeks ago, but it's so frustrating. It makes you so crazy trying to get your same group together over and over. And I like that this solves some of that. So So let's talk about the family game side of it. Yeah. You are young detectives in the game. Do you think the theme helps? Like, does the theme matter for a family game?
I think that the theme is really important. It doesn't. You don't have to be playing young detectives. You don't have to be playing teenagers for the family game. And as I've been thinking about a lot of the family games, just getting ready for the show, in most of them, you're not playing children. You think of like Forbidden Island, which is a fairly light game that most people would put in the family weight category. You are playing grown-ups, but the theme is not. I don't know if the word is, it's not aggressive, it's not edgy, it's not controversial.
But it's adventurous. It is a theme that that kids could be, you could very easily see yourself as a child playing make-believe with your buddies in, you know what I mean, the backyard about how we're all stranded on this thing and we have to figure out how to do that, right? Like it plays into the imagination of younger minds really nicely.
And even not just younger minds, but a wide variety of people. It taps into something that even as adults we still sort of feel, and maybe it's some of it we remember from childhood, but I think we even still get excited about, adventure movies.
For sure. I mean, there's a reason that there's going to be a fifth Indiana Jones movie. Even though the fourth one was objectively terrible by all accounts. I haven't seen it. I just know that I don't want to see Harrison Ford roll out of a refrigerator after a bomb goes off, and that ended my need for it. Kimberly, I want to throw this off to you because you just muted yourself, so I'm going to mess with you. What do you think about the idea of theme and co-op versus competitive when it comes to the concept of family games? Like, do you think that how important do you think those two aspects play into this conversation?
I think that theme can definitely draw a kid in. We see that a lot at G2S with the Play to Win Sparkle Kitty, I think is the name of it. Got played pretty much constantly. I think co-ops can be really great. I buy Forbidden Island for a ridiculous amount of children. My go-to games that I buy for other people's children who are not gamers are Forbidden Island, the one with the tubes, Dr. Eureka, Doodle Quest. I've purchased like 15
Looney Quest and Doodle Quest are both
Looney Quest is slightly more, it can be a little bit more mean with those power things, so I find that Doodle Quest seems to go over a little bit better. And any roll and write, like Quicks, those I've purchased that quite a few times. Those are pretty big hits overall that generally go well for kids. I think theme can draw them in, but it tends not to hold them as much. I think that kids can get into it a little bit more. Oh, and Matthew brought up Dixit. Yeah, it can get weird with a mix of adults and kids. Yes. But I have also purchased Dixit for so many kids, but that is my elder child is a theater kid. And so Dixit is like so up their alley because they can turn it into an entirely different game. For me, I'm like, cats. They're like, there was this dark and stormy night. I'm like, I don't. You've gone too far. My brain doesn't do that.
Gotcha.
But I definitely think that can fit in there. And then also silly things like Rhino Hero and Sorry Sliders is actually really great.
Sorry Sliders is surprisingly good.
Sorry Sliders is ridiculous fun.
And I am terrible. Abjectly terrible at Rhino Hero, by the way. I've discovered that when you have bratwurst for fingers, Rhino Hero is the worst thing ever. Like I bought myself a copy finally and busted it out a week or so ago, and I'm the worst. I should have bought the big one because then I would have at least had a chance. I am the dude that knocked over the tower both games. I'm just saying I am that guy. So yes, as of my limited play experience, I'm the worst.
I was recently the trader in Codenames. Bet you didn't know there was a trader in Codenames.
Well, I played with enough people that don't understand what the hell's going on that yes, actually. I think
I've played it like 150 times. I know damn well what's going on. I just was not having a good day and my brain was not braining well. And I was the spy master and I looked at the thing and the assassin was watch and the clue I gave was arms. Like 4 too, not.
What? Oh, because like you would wear a watch on your arms? What?
No. I was not trying to get them to get it, but there are arms on a watch. So that's like literally the first thing my teammate says when she's talking out loud. She's like, "Oh, I guess there's arms on a watch." And I was like, "Uh-oh."
Oh, we've all done that.
The other spy master just, starts trying not to laugh too, and I was like,
"Yep,
good." Yep. Well, Codenames is a good one I've played with kids, and what's interesting, it's really hard when people of mixed ages are on the same team, and it's really surprising to me. Even my son and I, we just really struggle at Codenames Duet. I watched a group of scouts. My wife and I are really good at Codenames Duet. But not to brag, but I played with a group of scouts, and the parents of the scouts run one team, and the scouts themselves run another team, and they all have a lot of shared experiences, each team, and so they were all giving clues that I wouldn't have known or I couldn't have guessed, but they all knew what they were talking about. But when you try to, I've had a really hard time trying to mix ages because you just don't know what kinds of things other people know.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's definitely that sort of who's on the in this conversation, like who is in on the joke when it comes to certain clues or whatever. Will work with very specific groups compared to others.
Yeah.
I often will have to ask full-grown adults if they know all the words on the board.
Oh God.
When it's mixed grade, when it's like a mixed group at a game night, I'll be like, does everybody know all the words? Because I've run into it quite a few times where clearly somebody doesn't know what the word is.
That's good.
As they're discussing things, I'm going, nope.
Yep. All right. So I'm gonna rant for a minute because I feel like I haven't flipped out about anything in a while.
You don't know how we went into family gaming rant. All right, go.
Trust me, don't go too crazy. It's not that bad. If you go to any, so if you are watching live and you have a web browser in front of you, go to Pandemic, okay? Go to Pandemic's page on BGG, and you will notice that it is the number 7 ranked family game. And if you click the word family, it's going to bring up a list of the top ranked games that BGG's community has decided are the best family games, all right? And if you don't feel like going through all that, I will help you out a little bit here, and I'm going to read you off the top 10 that BGG has decided are the best family games. And I want you to think in your brain and whether you think of these as family games. Number 1 is Azul. Number 2 is Seven Wonders. Number 3 is Patchwork. Number 4 is Clank. Number 5 is Crokinole. Number 6, Santorini. 7 is Pandemic. 8, Stone Age. 9, Codenames Duet. And 10, Ticket to Ride Europe. What? Okay, first off, 2-player games are not family games. Like that.
I mean, they can be. I play Patchwork with my kids. And
okay, that's fine. But to me,
usually family means a group. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about getting the group together in general. Like, so secondly, I cannot even fathom the idea of sitting down with a family and being like, Codenames Duet is definitely where we're headed with this, or Ticket to Ride Europe, or Pandemic maybe because it's co-op. But Azul? What? I don't know.
Oh, my kids love Azul.
Really?
Oh my God, they've played it like 40 times this year. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
but you said your daughter likes Castles of Burgundy. Would you call that a family game?
Yes. No, I guess not.
Right.
Not for most people.
Right. So here's what. First off, I do not hate families, Chad. So shut your filthy mouth.
What happens when I'm not reading?
Yeah, I know.
Junk art is good. Junk art's fun.
So there's nothing wrong with these games, but I don't feel like we are grading on the same scale that we're talking about. Like, I don't feel like BGG's ranking system is talking about the same thing that we're talking about, which is a game that is accessible and engaging and meets the needs of a family. It doesn't feel like that's where they're going. It feels like BGG is saying, well, it's not, because what is the opposite of, like, what other category, if it isn't a family game, what does it get called?
That's a really good question because
someone's made a wildly inappropriate joke. Continue, my apologies.
I'm just going to look up A Feast for Odin because that's as far from a family game, and that would be called a strategy game.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to look up these strategy lists, and I want to see if any of these cross over or if it is like one versus the other, right?
Well, there's abstract games, which Azul is considered.
Yes,
I think even Patchwork is.
Abstract games are usually generally pretty easy to teach.
Yeah, that's true.
So that makes them pretty family friendly, I think.
Yeah.
So not a single game that I just read to you out of the top 10 exists in the strategy game category.
Well, they're just not that highly ranked. So Pandemic is considered a strategy game.
Is it? Okay.
But I don't exactly know how the rankings work, because Pandemic is 74 on the strategy game ranking.
Yep, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. I think Seven Wonders is too. I don't.
Yep, Seven Wonders is here. I found it. It's number 42.
Yeah.
Seven Wonders Duel, however, is number 12. I guess where I'm saying here is that it feels like this is a name that is being attached to games not because of families, but because of it being like some sort of a distinction away from other quote unquote heavier games. Does that feel, am I reading that wrong? Because I know that in my misguided arrogance that I talked about earlier in the show, which I'm copping to, and that's part of why I want to talk about this. I admit that I've done the same thing, right? Like I don't think of family games. Like when I think of a family game, I'm thinking of lighter stuff, and that's wrong. I think it's wrong. Is it wrong? I don't know.
I don't think it's wrong to think that. I mean, there are definitely families that like heavy games, but I think when we think about family games, we're thinking about appeals to a wide variety of families, maybe, or a wider variety of people, because families are going to have a wider diversity in gaming backgrounds than your game group probably will. Just because people get together every week to play games, even if they're in a family together, may have different kinds of games that they like more. So I think, the easy to teach, a lot of the games in the strategy category aren't easy to teach, and they're not easy to remember what you're doing. Some of them are, and they have strategy, so there's overlap, I think. But I think typically a lighter fare is, I think that's fair to say that families are going to, games that we think of as family games are going to be lighter than some of the heavier games, but they're still strategy games. I think Pandemic and Seven Wonders especially, like, they're still strategy games.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not a binary classification. It's that, okay, I get that. The chat room is pointing out, a couple of people have pointed out that BGG's categorization system leaves something to be desired anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fair too.
Yeah, and no disrespect meant to Aldi or anything that he's done with the site, but the hobby has expanded faster than that website.
Well, and it's user driven too. So
that's true.
And categorizing things is really hard. And there are definitely things where you're like, oh, that's clearly a family game. You think of like Coconuts, that's clearly a family game, and you think, oh, Feast for Odin, that's clearly a strategy game. And then someone's like, well, what about Crokinole? What about
what about Century Spice Road, the most soulless game to be produced in the last 24 months?
Hey, you be nice to my Emerson.
Emerson is a fine person.
Emerson is the sweetest.
Sure. That's great.
Nice.
That's a family game.
Great.
And it is totally a family game. My kids played it. I don't own it, but they played it with Emerson before it was published. A bajillion years ago. Emerson
is a fine person.
It is like more difficult Splendor.
Okay.
Do you think that any of the different themes are more family than others in that? I mean, what are the themes?
Nothing says family like turning cubes into other cubes and then spending cubes on a card. That's all I'm saying.
I think kittens and doggos.
I'm just grumping a little bit because that was not my favorite game in the world. It's fine. Chad's pointing out in the chat that you have to understand that the rating system is based on what BGG users who are not normally family gamers for the most part are saying for family games.
Yes, so it is user driven. It is problematic in that way.
Right. Yeah. So don't you like? I've joked on the show before. As a matter of fact, I said something to All Day once in one of my last appearances on the Weekly Alaboom when he was also a guest. I said that I wanted there to be a script running in the background of BGG that auto bans people for 7 days whenever they start a thread that says a couple rules questions. I just want the website to immediately smack them down and punish them and so they can have time to think about the error of their ways before they move forward. That's a joke, kind of. But it makes me wonder, like, maybe people without families shouldn't be talking about what a family game is, or at least not rating things. And I'm doing that right now. Hypocrisy alert right here. I get it. Okay. No. But here's the deal. I am going into it saying I'm trying to learn. I'm not saying I know the thing. I want this to be a discussion so that we can get a better handle on what this phrase actually means. Because I think it's too much of a pejorative in too many lexicons right now. Yeah,
one of the other things I listed when I was thinking of different things that make games family games, a lot of people say that everyone has a chance to win probably all the way to the end. So they'll either be finishing close or have close scores, or there's luck, more luck in it. So that
dice work well in that.
Just not so much like coconuts is an example that I love, because when in coconuts, if you are losing badly, there is a mechanism for you to go on a spree. If you make all the shots in a row, you can come back. Like that, it's never like you're 100 points down and there's no way on earth that you can come back for the last hour of the game. And so, maybe it's not luck. Like if you roll a 5, you win, but there is some chance that you're always in the game. And I think that helps keep people engaged. And we talked about younger people and attention spans, but I think all of us in a setting like that want to be engaged in the game more so. We don't want to feel like for the last hour our plans got thwarted and we're no longer able to come back from winning the game. Sometimes that's appropriate in a strategy game. If you make great plans for 2 hours and then someone beats you, it's like, yes, if I could have pulled this off, I would have wanted to win, and that would have been satisfying. And the fact that they beat me is part of the game. But in a family setting, it's probably not as appropriate. You're not going to keep as wide a group of people as engaged as you would in a shorter game where everyone has a chance, even if it's a small chance, as the game gets close to the end, to come back and win.
A push your luck mechanism as a great example. Paul has brought up a few really great ones here in the chat, like push your luck or a risk reward thing where you can, shoot the moon at the last minute to try and make a big comeback, or some sort of a catch up mechanism at all. I think that's a really good point. It was mentioned, I think Matt referred to it earlier as a smaller skill gap. The idea being that whether that's defined via luck or something where there is always a chance, no matter how good I might be or how bad you might be at the game, there's a chance that you can pull something out at the 11th hour. That's a cool way of looking at it too. First off, I do not hate orphans. I do not hate families. I do not hate children. I don't hate dual income, no kids. I don't hate anybody. That's probably a lie, but I really don't hate very many people, and I definitely don't hate whole swaths of humanity. What I do is want to learn about stuff that I don't already know things about, right? And I think that this is one of those things. I am not a family gamer. I do not have a family I game with. I don't have that frame of reference that people that have children in the home do. And I think a lot of people... I'm not going to show that comment, Matt. You can go to hell.
I was going to show that comment.
No, do not.
Bill is not.
That is how the internet comes to hate you and your YouTube channel.
That's valid.
But I think that it's important that those of us that are not part of this demographic learn more about what does make this demographic, right? And so what I was going to say before about BGG is that I kind of wish that there was like some way that BGG could say, yes, I am a parent with 2 kids. Therefore, when I tell you something is a family game, it means something, versus Grognard number 4 that was like really thinks that, Century Spice Road is too cash and can't, and that's way too family for him. You just kind of look at that rating and go, yep, you are not your opinion is not that it isn't valid, but it is not weighted as strongly as somebody who is quote unquote in the trenches. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something we said earlier, kids are not all the same, and just like grown-ups are not all the same, right? So you could imagine some kids sitting around playing some really boring thinky Euro saying, "Oh, I bet grown-ups would like this." like that all grown-ups.
Yeah.
Like
well, let's face it, we all thought that all grown-ups were the same when we were kids too.
Yeah, we did, and
we were wrong. We were wrong. And now that we're grown-ups, we're like, stupid kids. Yeah. No, it's for sure.
We have some games, like one thing I would say, Seventh Continent is one we've been playing. I would say that's not a family game, partly because of the theme, partly because of the complexity. But when I say me and my son and my wife won't play it, it's because my wife won't like it. It's like, my son and I play it. So It's not that it's like not appropriate for kids. It's just not a game that
for your family.
All four of us will sit around and play.
We have entirely reasonable.
Right.
I think Andrew brings up a good point in the chat. His counterpoint here. Did you see it?
That defining it doesn't seem that important.
Yeah.
I agree, sort of. Here's the problem, though. As our hobby gets bigger, and as the net gets cast wider, and as these games enter the mainstream and the public awareness more and more, at some point, more and more people go to BGG. And they go trying to find games that are a good fit. Mm-hmm. And these categorizations, while they may not be particularly important for us, we are the vocal minority by a huge amount here.
Yes.
And people that are new to the hobby are going to want to find great games that they can play with their family.
But I think the people that are new to the hobby that are going to be looking for great games that they can play for their family are typically going to be going to like Target or Barnes & Noble, where they actually effectively section these things off and label them pretty damn well, better than BGG has them broken up now, I think.
I guess that's a good point that Target's doing a better job than BGG is, right?
But I mean, for this particular thing, and this is because it is user-driven.
Yeah.
It is strictly the user-driven interface, I think, that really breaks it down into what it is, which is what makes it great in a lot of ways, but it's also what makes it problematic for things like categorization and ratings. And
or at the very least, it makes it less useful for people that are not already in that ecosystem.
Exactly.
Like
if for a noob, it's more difficult.
Right. Yes.
It's not particularly user-friendly or driven like around that. That is not what it's intended to be, right? I mean, It's for gamers, not for potential gamers.
Well, that is currently what it is for. I guess my point is that I think it needs to be more than that, and we should be all working to make it more than that. Because it would be really nice if we could just kick people to BGG and point out, here is a great place to go and find a bunch of games. If you like this, go here.
Right.
But right now, that is not a particularly great solution. But we're getting there.
All I did was when I when I was still new, I would go to BGG and look at ratings, basically.
Yeah.
I never looked for the category or anything like that. I just wanted to see an average rating.
Sure. But I guess in the context of this conversation, if you are looking for family games, this is a less, I don't think it's not doing the hobby a service at this point for people that are on the outside looking in. But maybe it is. And I mean, I could be wrong.
That's an entirely different show and a relatively large problem. Yes.
Yeah. And we've talked about it on this show before. We've actually talked about BGG, and I think we should revisit this at some point.
I don't just mean BGG in general. I mean the community. Yeah, the community with the things that like people assume that everybody knows what a meeple is. Mm-hmm. Or what orthogonal means, or
like building or worker placement, or any of the lingo,
or a hex,
right?
Or a hex, that's a good point.
I mean, any of them, it is a very separate thing, and that should actually probably be a topic we discuss. We can have that as a whole show, kids.
That's a really good idea. I like it.
You're welcome.
Put it on the calendar, and then make sure you show up.
I will look at the calendar.
There are a couple of sites that I think do a good job with this. The Board Game Family is one. Geek Dad, Geek Mom. They do more than just board games, but I think they do a good job of covering games, and they're not all in this, light family necessarily. They cover a broader range of games. And I really like is it Casual Game Insider magazine? I think that they've got that in Barnes and Noble even at one point. Casual Game Revolution is their site, and they have a category they call casual games, but they stretch it across. There are casual Euro games and casual party games and casual family games. There's casual games in all those categories that I think, that's really, when I think people are looking for family games, a lot of times it's more that casual game, and they quantify it by how long it takes to teach, how long it takes to play, how easy it is to come back to it and play it again, those kinds of things. So that's another good site that covers games of this ilk.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. We have already gone over, and I don't want Kimberly to start shouting at me like she usually does when we go long on the show. So,
and what makes us go long on the show, Bill?
You
that first 30 minutes.
No, you know what? Quiet down. I like the first part. People in the chat like the first part. It is the way that it will remain, Kimberly. Damn it. Whatever. All right. So let's wrap this sucker up. Randy, thank you so much for being on the show. A Spy Club, is it when what's the deal?
Yeah, so Spy Club, we'll have it at Origins for demo preview. It was a Kickstarter campaign, so we've got to get the games to backers. I think it's the games have cleared customs. They're on their way to our warehouse, so it'll be any day now before we start shipping those out to backers. I think it's street dates. The plan is next month, and so we'll have it for sale at Gen Con. You can pre-order it now at the Renegade site. If you go to spyclubgame.com/buy, you can get a link to pre-order it there. But it should be out this summer for everyone to get.
Randy, and you're going to tuck that link into an email and shoot it over to me so that way I can put it in the show notes after the show's over, right?
Absolutely.
You're a good man. And if you feel like throwing a copy of the game in there too, no, I'm kidding. No, but we'll be spyclubgame.com/buy.
Yes.
Right? Did I get that right?
Yep.
Good job,
yep.
me.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Randy, for the record, didn't get rapid fire because Randy has been on the show before and has already done it. We only rapid fire people the first time they've ever been on the show.
That's
and Randy
good.
is a seasoned veteran at this point. We only torture people once unless they specifically request it.
That's good.
Randy, what's your favorite game with dice?
King of Tokyo.
Oh, you son of a...
I don't know if that's true. That's the first one that came to mind. Yahtzee's probably Yahtzee's the game I've played with dice the most.
Gone, Sean Cleaver.
Ooh, that was a pretty good one. I played that at BGG Spring. I really enjoyed that one.
Right up there.
So good.
Yeah, that's very good.
Kimberly, where do people find out more about you and stuff?
They just shouldn't. Just leave me alone.
They probably shouldn't. No, I don't. You know what? You're right. Let's move forward.
Just leave me in my corner. I'm crabby.
Yeah, she is crabby.
If you don't know by now,
KJ Rabia on Twitter.
Billiard.
I'll do it. I don't care. Stalk her. Don't really stalk her, please.
Don't actually. No.
Be nice. Be nice.
Yeah.
Everybody that watches the show is nice now, for the most part.
Yeah.
Most of them. That's fine.
Matthew.
Well, he's fine. We can't. And for the record, I am Bill Corey Jr. or the Cubist Podcast on Twitter. Don't forget to go to cubistpodcast.com. You can buy merch up there. You can go to our Pod Pledge page. Look in the links on the YouTube video. If you feel like supporting the show, it is very much appreciated. I'm not going to insult you by saying we can't do this without you, but boy, it sure doesn't hurt. And makes it so that way it's easier to get things done. I'm still working on the live streaming rig. I know I promised some streams last week and then life has gone weird, but it's almost there. So hang in there, subscribe. You'll get notified for everything. The Cubist is a proud member of Punchboard Media, where we all bring
something to the table.
See, thank you. I just want you to know that Paul had no faith in us and tried to remind us in the chat, thought that we were going to forget.
I always remember the cheesy line.
So do I. And we didn't even mutter it like happened the last time with that substandard. Yeah, exactly. See, Chad is the one that's going to call out the other hosts. I like it.
I'll bring something to the table.
We're so glad we're part of this network. Yeah, no. It's been a lot of fun. There is a Punchboard Media meetup thing happening at Origins. Don't miss it.
I don't know anything about it, but yes.
Patrick's going to be there, and a bunch of other folks from PBM are going to be there. So go check it out. If you go, I think at Over the Hill here, we'll start sending people there, or at Punchboard Media. They're going to be talking about both of those things. So, and if you have a Cubist merch and you go to Origins, I want to see it. Take pictures. I'm just throwing that out there, that if you take a picture of yourself in a Cubist shirt at Origins and you put it on Twitter where I can see it, good things might happen.
Makes us happy.
I'm just throwing that out there. So everybody, thank you so much. Have a great week of gaming, everybody. Randy, you are the best. We will see you all again next week. Bye. See ya.